Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. So tonight's guest speaker is Gurusevak Prabhuji, who is from Coventry. He's a disciple of Krishna Das Swami. He was actually born into Krishna consciousness and was initiated at the age of 16 and then went into Brahman Diksha at the age of 17. He now serves at the ISKCON Coventry Temple as Punjari, Kirtaniya, temple cook in the cafe, a youth preacher, advisory and guide. He actually studied accountancy and finance at Warwick University and founded KC Sok there and oversaw that for 13 years. So thank you so much for taking the time out to join us today, Prabhuji, and over to you. Hare Krishna.
So thank you so much for having me today. And so I'll start off with Jai Radha Madhav. I wasn't actually originally going to sing, but I think we'll give it a go. Jai Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Jayo Girivaradari Jayo Girivaradari Jashodanandana Vradana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Panachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Radhe Jai Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Guru Maharaj Guru Maharaj Jaya Patite Pavan Nitai Gaura Haribol Nitai Gaura Haribol Jai Shri Madhava Ki Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Guru Maharaj Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangam langayate girim Yat kripatamaham vande paramananda madhava Shri Guru Dinataranam. So Haribol everyone. Welcome to today's class. So today's class will be on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 16. So this is when Maharaj Parikshit welcomed the age of Kali. So I'll start with just reading the Sanskrit and the translation for the first verse, and then I'll go on to explain the rest of the chapter and some other topics around that. So, Sutta Uvacha Tata Parikshit Dvijavarya Shikshaya Mahim Mahabhagavata Sashayaha Yatahi Sutyam Abhijata Kovida Samadhishan Vipra Mahad Gunastata. The translation is, Sutta Goswami said, O learned Brahmins, Maharaj Parikshit then began to rule over the world as a great devotee of the Lord, under the instructions of the best of twice-born Brahmins. He ruled by those great qualities which were foretold by expert astrologers at the time of his birth. So, I'll start with giving a brief summary of the previous chapter. So, in the previous chapter, Arjun is actually, Lord Krishna actually has left the planet, and the Pandavas and Arjun are recapping over all the amazing things by the Lord's mercy that they were able to do. Now, especially Arjun, he was able to do some amazing things by the mercy of the Lord. He had extraordinary strength and extraordinary skill as an archer. In fact, when Arjun was actually born, Indradev went to the Lord and asked that the Lord protect his son. And Lord Krishna said to him that actually at the period of time when Krishna is on the planet, Arjun will be invincible. No one will be able to defeat him. And actually during that period of time, Arjun fought Lord Shiva, fought Indra and the demigods, fought the Gandharvas, fought in the battle of Mahabharata, and he was undefeated. And you can see that some people don't really rate the demigods as, oh my God, they're not so powerful, and that maybe they're not incredible warriors. But they are actually absolutely incredible warriors. And I'm into Mahabharata, so I've read a lot of actually Mahabharata, because Arjun and Karan and Bhishma, they've always intrigued me, because the descriptions of their actual qualities and their power and their ability to fight was always very, very interesting to me. So let's say, for example, Lord Shiva. Arjun was able to astonish Lord Shiva with his prowess in battle. And you have to understand, Lord Shivji is incredibly powerful. In fact, in the Mahabharata war, at the start of the war, Bhishma Dev was asked to rank all of the fighters in order of who was the greatest and down all the way, and how long it would take them to actually win the battle. So when he was ranking all of the warriors, he didn't rank himself out of humility, although everyone understood Bhishma Dev was at the top. Bhishma Dev ranked Arjun as the best fighter. And then he started going down the list, like Karan, Bhimsen, others. But he came to Ashwatthama and he actually said, Ashwatthama is like a second Rudra. If he becomes enraged in battle, if he loses his equilibrium, he will become like a second Rudra, Lord Shiva, and annihilate everyone on the battlefield. Now, Ashwatthama was a Brahmin, so his emotions were always under check. One point happened when he actually lost control, and this was after his father was killed, Dronacharya. At that point, Ashwatthama lost control, and it said in that one day he destroyed an entire Akshohani division of the Pandavas. He turned basically into another Rudra. And this is interesting, because Dronacharya, before he had a son, he did tapasya to please Lord Shiva. And he actually asked, give me a son who is equal to you in battle. And then Ashwatthama was born. So at this point, when Dronacharya was killed, Ashwatthama actually started to then show his form of Rudra. And he released a Narayan Astra. Now this Narayan Astra was so powerful, 11 Rudras manifested in the sky and started showering down arrows, clubs, lances on the whole Pandava army. And everyone was being decimated by it. But because it is the Narayan Astra, Lord Krishna knew how to disarm this Astra. And so you can imagine Lord Narayan Astra, what would the Lord choose as the way to get out of getting attacked by his Astra? You'll laugh when you hear it. It was actually to pay obeisances. The way to get around this Astra was actually to pay obeisances to the Astra. So Lord Krishna quickly told everyone, put down your weapons. It's targeting anyone who is holding weapons, and just pay obeisances. So the whole of Pandava army was put down their weapons and paid obeisances. And Lord Krishna and Arjuna look up, and the Narayana Astra is still firing. And they're like, what's going on? Well, who hasn't listened? And they turn around and they can see Bhimsen single-handedly fighting the Narayana Astra by himself. And they're like, Bhimsen, what are you doing? Just put your weapons down. And Bhimsen said, I can't admit defeat. He goes, I have to keep fighting. And Lord Krishna said, just do it. So Bhimsen reluctantly put down his weapons, paid obeisances, and the Narayana Astra was actually vanquished. So you can see the potency of Lord Shivji's power is so immense that just when Ashwatthama summoned that, he was able to defeat an entire Akshauhini. So you can see Arjuna was able to amaze Lord Shiva with his prowess. And Lord Shivji actually gave him divine weapons. And one of those divine weapons was the Nagabash, which he used in Ekachakra to try and save Bhimsen, which was there at the time of Nityananda Prabhu. So you can see the Pandavas had done so much incredible actions because of the mercy of Lord Krishna. So Arjuna was lamenting, he was remembering the Lord so much, and he was actually becoming so emotional. And at the point when the Lord left, the Pandavas, Yudhishthira Maharaj immediately decided, we're going to give up the post, and we're going to want to leave the planet as well and go back to Godhead. So Yudhishthira Maharaj actually posted Maharaj Parikshit as the emperor. So Yudhishthira Maharaj was already the emperor of the world, and he posted Maharaj Parikshit now as the emperor. And then he posted Vajranab, who was the son of Aniruddha, who's the grandson of Lord Krishna, in Mathura as the actual, the king of Surasen. Now, Vajranab was this basically the son of the grandson of Lord Krishna. So at the time when Vajranab was ruling, him and Parikshit Maharaj were friends. So he went to meet Parikshit Maharaj, and Parikshit Maharaj asked how he was. And he goes, I'm not very happy. And he goes, why aren't you happy? He goes, well, I've become king of Mathura and Rajamandal, but there's nobody there. He goes, Lord Krishna has taken all of his parishads back to the spiritual world with him. So I've got no kingdom. And then Parikshit Maharaj said, we must be able to find a solution to this. So they went to Shandilya Muni, who was the Kula Guru of Nanda Maharaj. And they asked, what can we do? And he said, you need to re-establish these places in Vrindavan. They've all been dilapidated because the Lord has left. So this was some 30 years after Mahabharata. So Vajranab actually took this upon his head and thought, right, let me go and start building temples, restoring all of these places. So he actually made 16 deities of the Lord out of this very strong stone called Vajra. And he said that 3 special deities were made by him, and he wanted to make these to look exactly like Lord Krishna. Now, the thing is, Vajranab had never seen Lord Krishna. So he thought, well, how can I do this? So the only person at that point that was left that had seen Lord Krishna was Uttara, who was Parikshit Maharaj's mother. So he went to her and asked her, look, please, can you describe Lord Krishna so we can make deities of him? So 3 deities were made, but none of them perfectly resembled Lord Krishna. So Govindji deity was made, which resembled the face of Lord Krishna. Madan Mohan Ji was made, who resembled the navel down to the lotus feet, and Gopinath Ji resembled the trunk of the body from the navel to the neck. And it's actually said that when Sri Radha Raman Ji manifested, when the 6 Goswamis were here, the 6 Goswamis basically said that Radha Raman Ji was the perfect image of Lord Krishna, because he resembled the face, the trunk, and the legs of Lord Krishna. So Vajranab did this. He restored the entirety of Mathura, created actual colonies of people there. The Vrajavasis there now are basically the personalities who Vajranab installed in those areas. They're the descendants of them. So it said at that time, Vajranab, the queens of Lord Krishna were missing the Lord, and they came to stay with Vajranab. And they actually were obviously naturally very upset because they were missing the Lord. And they actually wanted to get relief from this. So it said that Uddhavji had actually, after the departure of Lord Krishna, he had gone to Vrindavan, and he was residing in the form of a creeper at Sakhisthala. And Kalindi, one of the queens of Lord Krishna, advised the queens and Vajranabji to go and meet Uddhav. So they went to Kusum Sarovar and they started to sing bhajans and kirtans about Radha and Krishna. And Uddhavji was very, very pleased with that and appeared and gave darshan. And Maharaj Parikshit was also there then. And then he spoke about the importance of hearing and reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. And he said that at the present time, Krishna and his Leelas are unmanifested, but by the influence of Srimad Bhagavatam, or chanting Krishna's names, that he will appear in your heart. And it says that Srimad Bhagavata Kyoyam Pratyaksha Krishna Evahi, that Srimad Bhagavatam is Sakshad Lord Krishna. So you might think, well, how is this going to help me? Like, these are the queens of Lord Krishna, the purest devotees, the grandson of Lord Krishna. Does that mean that if I hear Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Krishna is going to appear in my heart? Maybe, or my heart's full of material desires, or it's full of dirt. How is this going to help me? Srimad Bhagavatam gives the solution to that as well. Because Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse 17, Srinvatan Svakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Hidayantastohi Abhadrani, Vidunoti Suritsutam. It's actually said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's in everyone's heart, when cleanses the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Meaning, when you hear and chant the names of the Lord, or you hear Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord clears all those desires from your heart and actually clears the darkness from the heart. So Uddhavji was actually talking about Srimad Bhagavatam, and then he saw Parikshit Maharaj, and he said to him, you go back to Hastinapur and carry on your royal duties. In some time, Sukadev Goswami will meet you, and he will recite Srimad Bhagavatam for you. You didn't tell him that it would be the end of his life. You didn't tell him that this is going to be the end for you. He just said, oh, Sukadev Goswami will meet you. So after Parikshit Maharaj left, he began the narration of Srimad Bhagavatam to the queens and to Vajranab. And it was so amazing for them. They got so absorbed in it that actually by the end, they suddenly saw a sight where all around them, suddenly Vrindavan opened up and they could see all of Radha Krishna's Leelas, all of Raja Leela. And it said, as it opened up, it closed behind them and took all of them back into Krishna's pastime. So the queens were all reunited with the Lord. So you can see that Krishna had left the planet, and it said in the previous chapter that when the personality of God, Lord Krishna, left this earthly planet, from that day on, Kali, who had already partially manifested, had become fully manifest after that, to create inauspicious conditions for those who are endowed with a poor fund of knowledge. So you might think, well, how is it that Kali, even in the presence of the Lord, was partially manifest? You think this shouldn't happen? Well, guess who in the Lord's pastimes was the incarnation of Kali? It was Duryodhana. Duryodhana actually is an incarnation of Kali. And he appeared there basically to cause all these problems. And Akrura was sent by Lord Krishna to see Dhritarashtra and to tell him what the Lord's plan was. And Akrura went to Dhritarashtra to try and talk him out of siding so much with Duryodhana. In fact, at the time of Duryodhana's birth, donkeys were braying so much because it was a very negative sign that there's a bad omen when he was born. And Vidur actually told Dhritarashtra, you should immediately get rid of this child. He'll be a very bad omen and is very bad for the actual the society and the family. But Dhritarashtra was so attached, he said, no, this son will fulfill my ambition. So Akrura went and actually spoke to Dhritarashtra and said, you need to do something about Duryodhana. Do you understand? This is heading to a terrible situation where a potential could be that there's war and then anyone could win. And Dhritarashtra said something amazing. He said, I know Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I know he's come to destroy my dynasty. He goes, I know this. He goes, but I'm too attached to my son. I'm too attached to my son. I can't do anything. I'm going to pursue this. So you can see Kali's there, and Dhritarashtra knows his son is not a good person, but still he went along with it. So the chapter starts with Maharaj Parikshit ruling. Now, Maharaj Parikshit married Iravati, the daughter of Maharaj Uttara, who is basically his mother's brother. So he married his cousin. Now, this was very common, and it was okay. It's okay in Bharatiya culture as long as the cousin isn't part of the same gotra. So, just for example, Arjun married Subhadra, who was his cousin, but again, different gotra. And so you can see this was common. So, as you know, Maharaj Parikshit was saved in the womb by Lord Krishna. This I'm sure you covered when you've covered previous chapters. And there's something I've always loved about this pastime of Lord Maharaj Parikshit being saved in the womb. And in the womb, when Uttara saw Ashwatthama had released the Brahmastra and he was heading towards her, she ran to Lord Krishna and she said, please, Lord, save me, save the child in my womb. It doesn't matter if you don't save me, but just save the child. So Krishna actually said, don't worry, I'll protect. And the Lord entered the womb. And there's a lovely picture that we've seen of the Lord with four arms, and he's actually protecting Maharaj Parikshit from the Brahmastra. And Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, chapter 12, verse 9, the purport says, the Lord was enriched with 4 hands, earrings of molten gold, and eyes blood red with fury. As he loitered about, his club constantly encircled him like a shooting star. So the Lord was actually spinning his club like this. And later on in Srimad Bhagavatam, Maharaj Parikshit recounts this, but he actually recounts it differently because he was in the womb and he could see the Lord 4-arm form in front of him, protecting him. And Maharaj Parikshit says that the Lord was carrying Sudarshan Chakra and actually defeated the Brahmastra. Because you can imagine from Maharaj Parikshit's angle, looking from down up, the Lord spinning his gada like this would have looked like Sudarshan Chakra spinning. So this is lovely. You can see that the difference in actually, because he's a Parikshit Maharaj, his name is Parikshit because Parikshit means examiner. It means that that person who he saw in the womb, he was always trying to find that person in the world. So he's examining everything. Is this my Krishna? Is this my Krishna? So his name is Parikshit. So you might think, well, why would the Lord, those of us who would see weapons, you'd be thinking, oh, the Lord will definitely use Sudarshan to counteract Brahmastra. Why would the Lord use his Gada instead? But you can see in the chapter before, Canto 1, chapter 7, when Ashwatthama launched his Brahmastra against Arjun, Arjun came to Lord Krishna and started praying and saying, look, what can I do? This Brahmastra is the ultimate atomic weapon. And Srila Prabhupada says that it's like the atomic weapon, but with way more radiation and way more destructive power. Whereas a nuclear bomb can destroy a city or something, a Brahmastra can destroy the entire universe. So when this Brahmastra was launched, Krishna said to Arjun, you launch your Brahmastra because it will counteract it. So it says in this text 30, when the rays of the two Brahmastras combined, a great circle of fire, like the disk of the sun, covered all outer space and the whole firmament of planets. So this says that when the two Brahmastras are combined, this is a great circle of fire. So you can imagine now that was in the middle of the sky. In Uttara's womb, the Lord doesn't want a big circle of fire. It will burn Uttara to a crisp. So what did the Lord do? That one sadhu said that the reason the Lord swung his gada round and round because it was a cooling process. Can you imagine you swing a fan round and round, it cools? The gada actually cooled that fire of that Brahmastra completely down and neutralized it. So in the next verse of this chapter, it talks about Maharaj Parikshit's son, Janmeja. Now, Janmeja was obviously very upset after Maharaj Parikshit was actually killed by Takshak, the snake bird. And he became so angry, he actually performed a Sarpa Yajna. Now, this Yajna was where he started to offer all of the snakes in the world into the Yajna as retribution for his father being killed. And so you can see, firstly, how amazingly powerful they would be at doing yajnas. I mean, we do yajnas within ISKCON and we recite all of the mantras to the best of our ability. But we read from Srimad Bhagavatam that how even uttering a few syllables wrong can change the actual effect of the yajna entirely. You can see in the example when Aditi was had done a yajna to actually get a son that will kill Indra. The Brahmins mispronounced the shloka and ended up having sons which were the friend of Indra. Similarly, in somewhere else where they actually did a yajna to make the king have long life, the Brahmins didn't utter a phrase properly, and a demon ended up coming out of the yajna and killing the king. So you can see it's very, very important to have qualified Brahmins doing the yajna. Janmeja did this yajna, Sarpa Yajna, and it was so powerfully done, all the snakes started to become offered into it. And this Takshak Nag, who had actually killed Maharaj Parikshit, went to Indra to say, Indra, save me, please protect me. So Indra took him under the shelter, but because the sadhus were so amazing that were doing the yajna, Indra started getting dragged into the sacrifice as well. So they had to basically, the demigods came and started to pacify Maharaj Janmeja and said, look, please stop. So he stopped it, and Vedavyas was also present in that sacrifice. And he said that Vedavyas pacified Maharaj Janmeja and narrated to him the battle of Kurukshetra, what had happened. And by the end of that, Maharaj Janmeja was feeling so sad because he was missing his father. He asked, because his father had already left at that point. So he asked Vedavyas, please Vedavyas, I want to see my father. And Vedavyas is the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he said, okay. And then Vedavyas made Maharaj Parikshit appear next to him. And Maharaj Janmeja was so impressed by this, so happy, he worshipped them both together. So you might think, well, how is this snake bird, this Takshak Nag, how is he related to all of this? And the reason that I'm going into all of this detail is because it's good to understand the history of why certain events happen within Mahabharata. By doing that, you can greater appreciate the actual activities that are happening. So this Takshak Nag actually used to live in the Kanda forest. Now this was where the Pandavas were granted this other part of the kingdom. And Agni Dev had come to Lord Krishna and he said that my potency has been reduced. I need to eat, meaning burn, this Kanda forest because it's got loads of herbs and things in there which will rejuvenate me. So Krishna took Arjuna and he said, okay, yes, let's do this. So Agni Dev started to consume the entire forest. Now Takshak happened to live in that forest, but he wasn't present at that point. He had gone to Kurukshetra. but his wife was there and his son was there. And the wife actually ended up getting killed. And her son, Dakshak's son, Ashvashena, was actually there. But he managed to escape. So when Dakshak and Ashvashena heard about this, they were obviously very, very angry and wanted to take revenge on Arjun. And it said that when Arjun and Karan were fighting at the last battle, or the second to last battle, where Karan was fighting Arjun, there was a point where Ashvashena came to Karan and he said to Karan, use me against Arjun. Arjun doesn't have a counter for me. I will become an arrow and you can fire me and I will kill Arjun. He doesn't have a response for this particular weapon. Because Nagabash is actually, have you heard of Nagabash? Nagabash is a snake weapon. It's actually a snake that they're firing. So this Ashvashena went into Karan's quiver and Karan pulled the arrow, and as he shot, Krishna realized Arjun's not going to be able to counter this. So Krishna pressed his foot on the chariot and it caused the horses to bend their knees and the chariot went down. And the arrow went and missed Arjun's head and smashed his crown instead, which had been given by Indra. And up until that point in the battle, no one had even been able to harm a hair on Arjun's head because he was that amazing and Lord Krishna was protecting him so much. And this Ashvashena went right back to Karan and he said to Karan, quick, you've shown Arjun hasn't got a response for this. Use me again. I'm here. And Karan looked at him and he said, once Karan fires an arrow once, he doesn't use that arrow again. He goes, you just go. Karan was such a warrior, even though he knew there could have been an arrow there, but he was so proud as a Kshatriya saying Karan doesn't use the same arrow twice. So this Dakshak then couldn't get retribution on Arjun. But what ended up happening was he got retribution on Arjun's grandson. So he actually was the snake bird that actually came and killed Maharaj Parikshit at the end. So this particular chapter doesn't obviously have any of this in, but it has the initial advent of Kali Yuga. And even the meeting of Kali Yuga and Maharaj Parikshit only very briefly happens in this. So I thought I'd give a little bit of introduction and a bit of padding to what was going to happen in this chapter. So it says, once when Maharaj Parikshit was on his way to conquer the world, he saw the master of Kali Yuga, who was lower than a Shudra, disguised as a king, and hurting the legs of a cow and bull. The king at once caught hold of him to deal sufficient punishment. Now, I read the next chapter, and just after the first two verses, I became so emotional, I just had to stop reading, because it says in there, it's horrible to read. It says that the cow was standing there and with three of his legs cut, and Kali was attacking the fourth leg, and the cow was trembling and urinating out of fear. And I really felt so much that, oh my God, look, the cow's so afraid, is urinating out of fear, and Kali is chopping the legs. And my Guru Maharaj always used to say this. He used to say that we should protect cows. He said, this Kali Yuga is so bad. He goes, before that, no one would even think to kill a cow. Now, the situation with so many slaughterhouses and what's happening in the world is full on Kali Yuga. But when Maharaj Parikshit actually saw this, it says here that the king once caught hold of him to deal sufficient punishment. And Shaunakrishi asked straight away afterwards, why did Maharaj Parikshit simply punish him? Since he was the lowest of the Shudras, having dressed as a king and having struck a cow on the leg. The question he's asking is, why did he not kill him immediately? And there's a reason behind this, because Kali is very cunning, very, very cunning. So for the rest of this, so at the start of the chapter, it gives that little hint of what's going to happen. And then it goes on to Sutta Goswami talking about the things prelude to this. So Sutta Goswami answers that while Maharaj Parikshit was residing in the capital of the Kuru Empire, the symptoms of the age of Kali began to infiltrate within the jurisdiction of his state. When he learnt about this, he did not think the matter very palatable. This did, however, give him a chance to fight. So he took up his bow and arrows and prepared himself for military activities. So I was listening to a class by my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Krishna Das Maharaj. We post videos on our YouTube channel of Guru Maharaj's classes, and he was actually giving class on this topic of when Maharaj Parikshit met Kali. And he said that what actually happened was Parikshit Maharaj had spies which went throughout his kingdom to find out what was happening. And he saw that on the edges of his kingdom, some people had started to eat meat. So when Maharaj Parikshit had saw this, he thought, well, this is unheard of. So he thought, if this is happening at the edges of my kingdom, maybe it's happening elsewhere. So to put an end to this, he decided, okay, I'm going to immediately take my chariot and go and conquer all of the world to re-establish Dharma. So the world was already under the emperorship of Maharaj Parikshit because Yudhishthira Maharaj was emperor and he had already conquered all of the directions. But Maharaj Parikshit went to do it again because this is what the emperors do. They go around to re-establish law and order. So it said Maharaj Parikshit sat on a chariot drawn by black horses and his flag was marked with the sign of a lion. Being so decorated and surrounded by charioteers, cavalry, elephants, and infantry soldiers, he left the capital to conquer in all directions. So you can see the difference here between Maharaj Parikshit's horses and chariot and Arjun. So Arjun had a chariot drawn by white horses. Parikshit Maharaj has a chariot drawn by black horses. Arjun's flag was marked with the sign of Hanumanji, and Parikshit Maharaj's flag was marked with the sign of a lion. And it's funny, as soon as I reminded of Hanumanji on Arjun's chariot, I'm reminded of when Arjun was fighting Karan, and Lord Krishna would always praise Karan in front of Arjun, and it would annoy him no end, because obviously Arjun didn't know that Karan was his brother. So when Arjun would shoot arrows, it would hit Karan's chariot, hit him, but when Karan would shoot arrows, it would hit Arjun's chariot and a very small vibration would happen in there. And Krishna would be like, "Vah, Karan, amazing." And Arjun looks like, what? So at the first time he thought, oh, this is nothing. So they kept fighting. Karan again hit the chariot, a little vibration. And Krishna's like, "Vah, Karan." And Arjun's like, what are you doing? Are you on his side or are you on mine? Because why are you praising him so much? If I won, I can destroy his chariot in 2 seconds. And Krishna says, okay, but look at your chariot. Look who's sitting on it. First, I'm sitting on it with all of the weight of the universe because everything's within me. Next, Hanumanji's sitting on the top as well. I goes, and still, Karan's able to make a slight vibration in it. And Arjun just looked and he goes, maybe it's better that you don't speak, Krishna. just keep fighting. So, and you can see at the end of Mahabharata, when the battle was over, Krishna said to Arjun, you get off the chariot first. And Arjun was like, why? He goes, every day, like, you get off the chariot first and then I get off. Krishna goes, no, Arjun, the battle's finished now, you get off. So Arjun got off the chariot first. And then Lord Krishna looked up and he said, Hanumanji, you get off. And all of a sudden, Hanumanji appeared out of the flag and got off. And as soon as Krishna got off the chariot, all the divyastras and everything that were lodged in Arjun's chariot caused that chariot to explode. And Arjun was shocked. And he was thinking, whoa, look at this. And he just looked at Krishna, looked at Hanumanji and thought, wow, the Lord won this battle. Arjun didn't. Because Arjun, as great a fighter as he was, he's not comparable to Bhishmadev. He's not comparable to Dronacharya. So, Maharaj Parikshit, sorry, I get sidetracked a lot with Mahabharata because I just love the details of it. So Maharaj Parikshit went around and actually conquered all parts of the earthly planet. And he said, wherever the king visited, he continuously heard the glories of his great forefathers, like Arjun, Yudhishthira, Bhimsen, who were all devotees of the Lord, and also the glorious acts of Lord Krishna. And he also heard how he himself had been protected by the Lord from the powerful weapon of Ashwatthama. So you can see everywhere he went, he was hearing the glories of all of his dynasty. So you can see it's very wonderful, must have been very wonderful for him hearing that. And it must have been a lot of pressure if you think about it, because he is the descendant of them and has to live up to such incredible Vaishnavas. And boy, he definitely did. So it said at the same time as this was happening, the personality of religion, Dharma, was wandering around in the form of a bull. And he met the personality of earth in the form of a cow who appeared to grieve like a mother who had lost her child. She had tears in her eyes and the beauty of her body was actually lost. Thus, Dharma questioned her. He said, "Madam, are you not healthy and hearty? Why are you covered with the shadow of grief? It appears by your face that you have become black. Are you suffering from some internal disease, or are you thinking of some relative who is far away in a distant place?" So this is Dharma meeting Mother Earth. And Dharma says, I have lost my 3 legs, and I'm now standing only on 1 leg. Are you lamenting for my state of existence? Or are you in great anxiety because henceforth the unlawful meat eaters will exploit you? Or are you in a sorry plight because the demigods are now bereft of their share of sacrificial offerings, because no sacrifices are being performed at present? Or are you grieving for living beings because of their sufferings due to famine and drought? Now, my Guru Maharaj always used to say, and I remember this because he always used to make us repeat it, he would say that the 4 legs of Dharma, he used to ask everyone, what are the 4 legs of Dharma? And we have to repeat this. And the 4 legs of Dharma are austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. And I always used to repeat this, and many times, because we're only small when Guru Maharaj was giving classes, sometimes we used to forget, and sometimes we used to get them confused or mixed up, or someone would put some other thing in there. But these austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, and it's actually written in Srimad Bhagavatam in Canto 1, chapter 17, verse 24. It says that in the age of Satya, truthfulness, your 4 legs were established by the 4 principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. But it appears that 3 of your legs are broken due to the rampant irreligion in the form of pride, lust for women, and intoxication. So Dharma the bull actually had 3 of his legs cut by Kali. And half of the last one, truthfulness, was actually cut. So it said that mercy is totally cut. And you can see with the amount of animal killing and meat eating rampant across the world, and even all these wars and fighting and everything, the element of mercy is totally gone. Cleanliness, I mean, you could see within the pandemic how much suddenly cleanliness was at the forefront. Oh, you should wash your hands, cover your mouth. And it's funny, I always say this to people. I grew up with my Guru Maharaj coming every year and staying 6 months in England, and 3 or 4 of those months he was staying in Coventry with us, and we got to serve him every single day. My Guru Maharaj, this is going back 25, 30 years. So way before the pandemic, way before any of this stuff, if we ever touched our lips, Guru Maharaj would say, go and wash your hands. If we ever coughed without covering our mouth, Guru Maharaj would say, you nonsense, cover your mouth. If we would ever just yawn, Guru Maharaj would say, cover your mouth. He would be so hot on cleanliness. And now, once the pandemic hit, it suddenly hit me. I was like, oh my God. Guru Maharaj is saying all of this because there has been pandemics in the past. This is not the first one. COVID isn't. So in all the other pandemics, they would have realized that all of this bacteria, everything is transmitted by not covering your mouth when you cough, not covering your mouth when you're touching your lips, touching your face. So all of this is baked into Vedic Sanatan Dharma, where you keep that cleanliness at a very high level. So you can see that all of this was there. We didn't appreciate at the time. Why is Guru Maharaj saying if you touch your lips? Now in the pandemic, everyone wears face masks. They were wearing face masks to stop you getting contamination. So you can see cleanliness is practically gone. And austerity, I mean, who does austerity? It's even for devotees, they have to really try to do austerity. Whereas in previous ages, it just became second nature. A truthfulness is on its half a leg, which means in Kali Yuga, we still appreciate truthfulness. Yet, we see that it's not everywhere. So it says here that 3 of your legs are broken due to rampant irreligion. And in the next verse, it says, if the personality of Kali, irreligion, is allowed to act as a man god or an executive head, certainly irreligious principles like greed, falsehood, robbery, incivility, treachery, misfortune, cheating, quarrel, and vanity will abound. So you can see so many of those principles correspond to many of the world leaders now. It almost becomes, if they are those things, that's how they seem to get in these positions. So you can see Kali Yuga is in full swing. So when asked these questions by Dharma, Mother Earth in the form of the bull said, Lakshmi Ji, the goddess of fortune, whose glance of grace was sought by demigods like Brahma, and for whom they surrendered many a day unto the personality of Godhead, gave up her own abode in the forest of lotus flowers, and engaged herself in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. I was endowed with specific powers to supersede the fortune of all 3 planetary systems, by being decorated with the impressions of the flag, thunderbolt, elephant driving rod, and lotus flower, which are signs of the lotus feet of the Lord. But at the end, when I felt I was so fortunate, the Lord left me. So you can see Mother Earth is saying that while Krishna was there, Mother Earth was the most endowed with the most opulences, most beauty of any planet in all the 3 worlds, including heavenly planets, Indra's planet, Brahmalok, Tapalok, all of these places. Mother Earth was the most beautiful, the most fortunate. And she says, when I felt so fortunate, then the Lord left me. And it said, O personality of religion, I was greatly overburdened by the undue military flanxes arranged by atheistic kings, and I was relieved by the grace of the personality of Godhead. Similarly, you were also in a distressed condition, weakened in your standing strength, and thus he also incarnated by his internal energy in the family of the Yadus to relieve you. And it said, who therefore can tolerate the pangs of separation from that supreme personality of Godhead? He could conquer the gravity and passionate wrath of his sweethearts, like Satyabhama, by his sweet smile of love, and pleasing glance and hearty appeals. When he traversed my surface, Mother Earth is saying, I would be immersed in the dust of his lotus feet, and thus would be sumptuously covered with grass, which appeared like hair standing on me out of pleasure. So you can see Mother Earth, she is Bhudevi. She is actually the wife of Lord Krishna. And she actually, some people say that Satyabhama is an incarnation of Bhudevi, who's the wife of the Lord. And in fact, even it's written in Chaitanya Bhagavat when Lord Varahadev picked up Mother Earth out of the Garbhodaka ocean, his touching her with the tusks actually impregnated her, and they had the son called Narak, and that son actually was brought up as a great Vaishnav, but unfortunately fell into the association of King Vena and became Narakasur. who the Lord actually, as Lord Krishna, came and killed. So Mother Earth is the wife of the Lord. So the last text in this particular chapter says, while the earth and the personality of religion were thus engaged in conversation, the saintly King Parikshit reached the shore of the Saraswati River, which flowed towards the east. So that's the end of this chapter of Maharaj Parikshit receiving the age of Kali. So I'll end there and ask for any questions or comments.
If you have questions, please just unmute yourself and ask.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Just curious about, this you have mentioned this Radha Ramanath and Gopinath. So where this established deity? Can you tell?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, you said in your saying that Radha Raman and the other deities was established. So it's a real deity. So can you just say it where is exactly established where they are right now? Done by this Rajanath?
I'm cutting out a little bit, so I can't hear. But the Radharamanji deity is in Vrindavan. So Radharamanji is one of the main temples in Vrindavan, along with Banki Bihari, Radha Vallabhji. It's established by Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and Srila Prabhupada actually writes in Srimad Bhagavatam that out of the whole Gaudiya Vaishnavism is based in Bengal, he goes, but in Vrindavan, the place where Gaudiya Vaishnavism is mainly centered, is Radharaman Temple. And so it's actually there. And many of the ISKCON leaders go there, and so many of the devotees do. So if you go to Vrindavan, it's one of the Prasiddh temples, so you'll be able to find it.
So what about, I heard something in Jaipur. So what that deity?
So many of the deities, basically, when the Mughals attacked, many of the deities were actually moved to Jaipur. And because Radharamanji is like this, I can't see my hands, is about that big. So he's very small. So they were actually able to hide him underneath one of the tiles in Radharamanji temple. So they just thought, oh, they've already moved the deity out of fear. So Radharamanji is the only original deity in Vrindavan. All the rest of the deities are actually replicas that are made afterwards, but they're considered to be exactly the same. But if you want to go and take darshan of the originals, they're all in Jaipur and being worshipped very, very, very well.
Okay, thank you very much. Very wonderful class. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you very much. It's lovely to hear your voice again anyway, so thank you for that. What I would just like to ask is more or less about Uddhavji, because Uddhavji tends to be spoken about, but I wasn't quite sure of the background. So if you could just enlighten us about that, actually, if that's okay.
In terms of, I think Uddhavji, as far as I remember, I think, because I remember a class where my Guru Maharaj actually saying that Uddhavji is still around, and because apparently I think he might be immortal, I think my Guru Maharaj was saying. So Uddhavji, Ashwatthama, and a few others are actually still around. So like I said, Uddhavji is residing in Vrindavan, and he asked to actually reside there as grass, so that the gopis' feet would go over him. So it is said, and it's basically from Kusum Sarovar, they say that Uddhavji is residing as a creeper there, which is where Rajanavji and the queens actually met him. So Uddhavji is actually still around.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else wishes to ask any questions, please unmute yourself. We've just got a few more moments. If not, Rana Mataji, would you like to?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you for this nice class. Thank you for talking about our Guru Maharaj, revived the older memories of Guru Maharaj. I remember about the cleanliness. When I used to come from work, I was working in a hospital. He said, "Did you wash your hands? Because infection will come before you come in the house." When you are living in South London. Yeah, very nice, very good memory of Guru Maharaj. Thank you, Prabhuji. Very nice class. And also, you know, Kali had to come for his course. You know, the yugas, 4 yugas are there. So Kali's time had come. That's why Parikshit Maharaj had to leave. Otherwise, Kali would not be able to perform like whatever his time is there on this material world, because the circle of the 4 yugas, Kali time has come. So the Lord has to find a way to take Parikshit Maharaj away so that Kali can do his duties in a way, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, but I remember I just listened to Guru Maharaj's class with talking about Kali meeting Maharaj Parikshit. He said that Guru Maharaj said Kali started trembling when Parikshit Maharaj saw him, because he saw in Parikshit Maharaj that there was the ability to destroy the age of Kali. Because it actually said that the 4 yugas personally were actually, as persons, Kali is actually a demon. And he was actually in the heavenly planets before, and he incarnated as the personality of Kali Yuga. So it is possible to kill them. Even though they represent the particular age, they're not invincible. So he was very afraid of Parikshit Maharaj, because he could have done it. And I remember Guru Maharaj used to say, like, if only Parikshit Maharaj had actually killed Kali Yuga, we wouldn't have gone through all of this. But Kali Yuga is celebrated purely because of that fact that Kalira Dosha Nade Rajan Astikiya Ko Mahadguna Kirtana Deva Krishna Sya Mukta Sangha Param Brajed. That because Kali Yuga has unlimited ocean of faults, but the best thing is that simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, we can go back to Godhead. So thank you, Madhali.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.